So in Peru, on the surfaces of some of the stones I saw these interesting markings that look like the stone had been melted off. And I find that they have a similar look to these markings here. And again, if you take so here I am at the Aswan Quarry, which is where the ancient builders quarried the Aswan Pink Granite. And I came here because I really wanted to see the way they excavated the obelisks and the other granite that they used all over Europe, basically. So I was just in Baalbek, and they had the Aswan granite columns that I showed you how perfect those were. Mirror smooth. This granite most likely came from Aswan, Egypt, thousands of kilometers from here to the south, to the southwest, most accurately. Note the simple finish here. This is machined here. And then if you look up, you will notice it's mirror smooth. Still, after thousands of years, retains its mirror smooth finish. So yesterday I was here and I was unable to really show you this, but today I think I can show you the glass smooth surface here. Let me see if I can get something on there. Let me put something on there. Let's see that. Look at that. Look at the reflection here. Oh yeah. This is not made by hand. I'm sorry. These are literally thousands of years old, these pillars. Weathered, thousands of years. Rain and snow and ice. And look at the polish of this. Imagine when it was first created in their creation. So this is where that material came from. And one of the really interesting things here to notice is these markings here. And I've noticed this width of marking on images I've seen in pictures of Peru. So in Peru, on the surfaces of some of the stones I saw these interesting markings that look like the stone had been melted off. And I find that they have a similar look to these markings here. And again, if you take a tool mark there, I find this very, very interesting. Very interesting here. Again, these marks here. So these are linear, and they're certainly not straight. Something was used that made these very peculiar markings that were both very regular, and they look about the same depth, and they're flat on the bottom. Again, you can see more strange markings. Actually, these markings are almost exactly the same as things that I've seen in Peru, and I'll link those to some images. I noticed in Peru some very interesting markings, and I also noticed a similar shape and size here at the Unfinished Obelisk. And if you look at the wall here, I want to bring your attention to the regularity of this. And so I came here just to get a closer look. And we're going to just walk down here first, and we're going to take a closer look at this, and we're going to get some measurements down here and see how big these things are, because they're extremely regular, as you can see here. They're very regular in size. And so whatever tool or method they were using was producing this shape. And I will also provide some images from Peru that have similar excavation tool or markings. So we're just going to walk down here and take a quick look here. Howdy.
Hey.
See what we see here. Very regular. Very, very regular. These are very regular in shape. And what you could use to excavate this in this manner is quite interesting. There's a hole there. Here we go. They were cutting out an obelisk here, shaping one here. There's our measurement tool. Very regular again. You can see these marks here. Something was stamping out these very regular. And one thing that I find very fascinating about this is how the ancient builders were able to pull the quality of granite out of this location, because there's a lot of fracturing here. Oh, look at that. Now that's really interesting there. That's very interesting. Look at how this is fractured along. That is interesting. So could this be all of this along here? So that is quite possibly heat related. You could see all along here, and I noticed here also, like this has been fractured here. So this area has definitely been heat exposed. And you could see over here, same situation here. There's curious damage to the granite, and this is what happens when granite is exposed to heat or high intensity heat. You get this kind of damage there. And look, it's everywhere. Everywhere along those, everywhere that here that was on to the sides of these things. So now the official story is that the official story here in Egypt is that they made fires in these little pits, and then they were able to use a rock to smash it. But I find that a little bit difficult to believe because of the regularity of these square. And you can see this. Look at that. how regular that is. And again, for scale, you can see, there you go. Very curious. Some other interesting features around here are these holes. Now I wonder, this is quite deep. I wonder if those holes might be for testing the integrity along the side here, because if you went down, you'd be able to see if there is, the condition of the rock there. But it's very interesting how fractured this material is next to these things here. There's no shortage of flies here. All right, let's take a look. So I've been poking around here in this quarry, and one thing I've noticed is there's not a lot of big quarry spaces, considering the reputation of this quarry for producing obelisks. Now, I'm not entirely sure. You can see some of the marks here. I'm not entirely sure that this is the quarry where the majority of the granite was taken out of. This looks quite fractured here. There's a lot of fractures here. You can see a lot of. I don't know if this would be considered really top quality granite for Aswan. If you look around here, so possibly the unfinished obelisk, maybe they were trying to make obelisks from here, and they're not that great, because the reputation of the unfinished obelisk is that it was stopped midway because of cracks. So that very well could be the situation, and maybe this quarry is not the quarry that much of the granite that we see, the fine granite that we see around the world, or at least around Europe and the Middle East and Egypt here, is coming from. So we're gonna go up and check out the unfinished obelisk. Oh. So here we are on the site here, and one of the things that I noticed here is that there are these strange markings on this wall here. You can see they're circular. I'm gonna pull back here so you can see, and then we'll go closer. You can see there's these strange marks here. There. These strange marks where the granite has been damaged by high heat. You can see, I'm coming up closer here. You can see it's burned. It's a good right there. It's burned here. It's a large burn spot there. Another large burn spot. Another one there. There's one up there. And here's quite a large burn spot here. Another burn spot, a smaller one. One up there, one there, one there, one there, and there's some up there. And you can see that these are all the same depth. They're not coming in degrees as you're walking up the wall. They're not from fires that were being burned along the wall as it was excavated out. These are marks of some kind of high temperature damage. It's very interesting. Again, another test borehole. There's test boreholes along here. This was most likely going to be an obelisk, and it looks like they chose not to finish the project. Okay, I'm getting really excited here because I'm poking around here at the Aswan Quarry, where behind me is the Unfinished Obelisk. And I was first of all looking at these curious cutouts, these regular marks, it looks like, and there was a tremendous amount of heat damage, and you can see that crack along that line there. And then I noticed on this wall right here what appear to be burn marks. Here, these little circular burn marks, right? And then I was looking up here and I saw that. And you can see, if you look closely here on that, it looks like some kind of high energy or some heat damage in a line like that, with some vaporized residue on the top there, because above that it kind of comes out. So vaporized rock would kind of come up, and then it would kind of come up and then sweep around that. Look at that. That is crazy. That is crazy. So I came halfway around the world here to be able to take a closer look at the quarry here in Aswan, because I noticed some very curious marks, again pulling down to that area there and over to the Unfinished Obelisk, but some very regular patterns there that I saw that I noticed on stones in Peru. And I'm like, man, that looks like they were just vaporizing the rock. And so I came out here, and again I noticed down below these patterns, but it wasn't until I looked at this wall down here that I noticed burn marks on the wall. And then I noticed a linear burn mark with residue. And then I'm coming up here to get a closer look, get a closer look at that. I'm gonna see if I can slide around the corner here. Gotta be careful. Oh man, look at that. Look at that right there. And those marks. And you see that pink stuff above there? It's like kind of smoke. And then I look over here and I see the same thing. You can see this area here is burned, and then it kind of comes up there, and you can see where the heat damage kind of came up here. You can see how flaky this is. And there's more areas along here where you see this heat damage along that whole area right there. And you can see how that is, yeah, look at that. You can see how this is kind of, how this area here, right here, has been cooked off. And then this area through here, and right above it, you can see the discoloration. Not as clearly as you can right on that side, but you can see there's like a whip, and then another one there, and then one there. And really, like I showed you here just a second ago, that right there is pretty interesting, in my opinion. So here I am at the famous Unfinished Obelisk. This thing is a monster. It's very, very big. I don't know what the finished weight would have been here. But again, you can see some of these very interesting scoop marks, and we're gonna go down there in a few minutes and get a closer look. Very interesting. Note the test holes down here. Unfinished Obelisk here. So, looking around at the ancient builders and how they were potentially trying to do things like cut stone and shape stone, I noticed in Peru some very interesting markings. And I also noticed a similar shape and size here at the Unfinished Obelisk. And if you look at the wall here, I want to bring your attention to the regularity of this. And then again, over on that wall there are some very interesting burn marks. Here we are, we're going to walk down here. Note again these very regular marks. Just going to walk down here. It's very curious that these marks here, all these marks here, you can see they're almost all about the same size. Very regular. Very, very regular. So we're going to walk out and walk down into this and see what is up. It is really interesting. Look at that thing. It's pretty big. Careful, this is a little bit slippery at times. Here we are, getting close to the Unfinished Obelisk here in Aswan, Egypt. I'm gonna go down here. And poke around. So I love to poke around. Oh yes. So according to the Egyptian mythology, these rocks were how these were created. I'm not going to argue that. There's another rock that was used apparently for the construction technique. I'm going to just drop down in here. Yet another one. Okay. And I know there's some interesting undercutting on this. We're going to try to find that undercutting. Let's just drop down here. Man, look at that. Yet another one. Apparently these were used for construction of these massive mirror smooth structures. Walk up here. Some interesting pieces here. Again, flaking, heat damage on those. More traditional. So this is more traditional quarrying there. And that's unfortunate. Oh, look at this. And see this here. I'm just gonna move through this here. Oh, gotta go up. And then I thought there was a place where this was undercut. Okay, continuing on, I just hopped over the edge of this Again, a test hole here. Another construction tool down there. Just step over this. Yeah, I thought there was a place where this was undercut. But we're just walking around. Again, just for sake of science, I'll put that on the, it's on, right on the middle of that thing there for reference. See, it's quite regular. And we'll figure that out once we get back. But yeah, this is quite fascinating here. Yeah, I thought there was a place here where this obelisk was. Yeah, I mean, look at this. These are, so you got 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Down, down, down we go. And it's interesting, see the depth of these cuts. A lot of these rocks that are dropped down in here. Yeah, interesting there. Just gonna walk down through here. Yeah, I know there's a place where this is undercut, or maybe that's another place. In these test holes here. Very fascinating. Oh, yeah, there's a seam under there. Okay. Yeah, quite interesting here. Turn around. Trying to see what's going on up there. So yeah, very interesting. Here I am, the Unfinished Obelisk right next to me. And I think there's another place here where you can see how it was cut underneath. So we're gonna go see if we can find that. We're here at Aswan. Very interesting stuff that I've seen today. Very interesting. So in Peru, on the surfaces of some of the stones I saw these interesting markings that look like the stone had been melted off. And I find that they have a similar look to these markings here. And again, if you take a tool mark there, I find this very, very interesting. Very interesting here. Again, these marks here. So these are linear, and they're certainly not straight. Something was used that made these very peculiar markings that were both very regular, and they look about the same depth, and they're flat on the bottom. Again, you can see more strange markings. Actually, these markings are almost exactly the same as things that I've seen in Peru, and I'll link those to some images. So when you're looking at quarrying marks, you're looking for things like this. These are how you use hand tools to quarry stones. And there's a perfect example along that edge. So here I am at Aswan Quarry, and now I'm looking at some traditional quarrying methods where you would you would use a chisel and you would chip that out, although these are actually quite interesting. They look actually pretty regular as well. These look like, and then you would put a block of wood in here, fill this with wood, and then you would wet that wood and it would open and expand and pop the stone out. You can see some of those up there. But we didn't see that near the obelisk, and instead we saw some very unusual markings that, again, I think I may have seen in images from Peru. And some interesting marks on the sides of the walls, which would be very difficult to put a fire on a wall of that intensity. All right, let's see what else we can find out here. Okay, look at that. Okay, so now here's where we get this undercutting that I was looking for. Looking for this undercutting, and this, look at the size of these. These are a bit larger, but still almost perfectly similar in shape. We come down here and we look under here and we see some very unusual, these are larger marks. But note that let me see if I can get down here a little farther. Okay, I'm gonna take a look under here. Yes, look at that. The scoop marks, here extend up the sides, and on the they're vertical. So that would be pretty interesting if you were using hand tools to try to make that, especially if you were pounding a rock vertically, as is suggested. I find those quite interesting. Okay, we're just gonna jump down here. Let's see what we can see. Okay, now we're down here. Now this is starting to be excavated out. Yeah, look at that. Look at those lines across that. It's hard to see it, but you can definitely see some very interesting markings here. I don't know if I can see, there's no way you can really see it, but there are some lines that come across in between these, and these are larger, just for the sake of science. Let's see. These are larger, but yet still very regular. So what was up with that? Okay, here we are. We're just poking around here. This other, what may have been part of an obelisk or something. And look at that. Look at that. Let's just take a closer look here and see what we see. Yeah, there's definitely, you can see definitely lines here. Same there. See, there's these lines that move across that. Just for scale, I've got this here. We're gonna do, just for scale, again, doing science here. Doing science. So yeah, so there we go. Very regular. And very interesting. Just gonna poke around a little bit more here, walking through this section, see what we see. Again, look at that. interesting line there. And remember, when granite is heated, it does become very brittle and it breaks. So let's see here, what do we got going on here? You can see lines through here. Here's a line, here's a line. Some very interesting things. And look at that fracture line under there. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at that. Right in. Sorry, look at that right in there. Again, I just had to restart my camera. See how that's fractured there? Look at that. Oh, and then look at this here. Look at this discoloration right there. And there's more discoloration right there. I find that highly curious and very interesting. Man, if you had a tool that you could melt granite with, that would be a good tool to use to quickly excavate large pieces of granite. Look at that. Look at these lines there. Again, out here in Aswan, the quarry, poking around.